A brave boy, though.
Before experts. And do I think any of it mattered? I certainly hope so. But for anybody that was in the courtroom for the last 11 weeks, you heard that there was not one fact against President Trump. There was not one piece of paper that showed anyone committed fraud. And don't forget that Section 6312, a consumer fraud statute, has been wrongfully used against my client, innocent defendants, the organization, and every employee of the Trump Organization, which has single-handedly changed the New York skyline, including the building we are in today.
Yes, this is the person speaking right now is Alina Habba, also known as the gamer lawyer.
These are special properties. Real estate is an art, not a science.
That's awesome. She's great. I'm, when I hear stuff like that, I understand why Trump selected her to be the trial lawyer here.
But you know what else is an art? You know what else isn't a science? Political motivated individuals. She's using this to paint a canvas.
Awesome.
That Donald Trump is a fraudster because they can't beat him in the polls. They can't beat him in the polls, so she ran on Trump because that was the only way she could win. And now, today, after 11 weeks, after 3 years, we have concluded that he indeed committed no wrong. The Trump Organization committed no wrong, and the kids have been dragged in just like the other defendants, and it is wrong.
The kids. I love thinking about, like, Trump's sons as just the kids. Let's see. Trump sons ages. Yeah, it's like, yeah, look at this, dude. You got one that's 40 years old and the other that's 46. She's not talking about Barron Trump, who's 17. She's talking about the other two fail sons, not Barron. Barron must be protected. He's like 6'8". He's going to be a baller. He's the next out. Okay, he's going to 5-star camp. That's the next Jokic. Okay, that's the next Joker. So, the idea that Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump are just kids is pretty awesome.
America needs to step up, and there's only one person who can do that. My client, Donald Trump. President Trump, everybody.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we've gone through years with this person. She's a political hack, the Attorney General. The judge is obviously extremely friendly with the group.
Why'd you call her the gamer? Because she games. She has a gaming laptop.
May surprise people on a positive side. We'll have to see what happens exactly. But we've proven this case so conclusively. We've asked for directed verdict many times. They don't have any facts. They don't have any evidence against us. Millions and millions of pages, years of...
Do they think they can just talk their way out of all these charges? I actually don't understand. What is this? When the world thinks you're a gamer because the court's live transcript feed computer is placed in front of you? Wait. Trump's lawyer sports gamer laptop at $250. Wait, no, she's not a gamer? I love how trashy she is. I would risk it all. Yeah, that makes me sad. All right. I mean, it's a big benefit for her, to be fair, because it's like, I will admit, when I thought she was a League of Legends player, that made me think less of her. Not the fact that she's Donald Trump's, like, probably worse lawyer, but the fact that we even speculate that she may be playing League is, like, definitely a way worse mark on her. So, anyway, getting back to the matter at hand here, though. You asked, like, oh, do you think they think that they're going to talk themselves out of these charges? And I actually don't really know how rich people operate in this circumstance. Like Alex Jones' defamation suit, right? Alex Jones' defamation suit led him to, have to pay like $1 billion. And he's still in operation, and it seems like he's still doing it. And And it's the same for like Donald Trump. Like, I don't know if he has a lot of money. I don't know if he has like I don't know how many billions he actually does have, right? So, like, what's he thinking? He's just going to give 300, he's going to make this payment? I guess he'll like hold it up in courts with appeals for as many years as he possibly can. Right? Hasan, you are rich. Star Blurbing is a socialist. Sarcasm. Yes. Yeah, I am. I mean, I don't know how rich Trump is. I might be just as rich as he is, to be honest. But that's not necessarily because I'm super caked up. It's just he's a broke boy, is my suspicion. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know why they do this kind of stuff. Like, they get involved in these legal battles, and then they just get these massive trial awards, right? And it doesn't make any sense. Like, what the goal is, what the momentum is, how you deal with it after the fact, what the repercussions are if you don't actually pay, or what the payouts look like by the end of this process when you do actually pay it off, or you're forced to pay it off many, many years in the future. I don't know. I mean, these guys are like the second defamation suit for E. Jean Carroll was one of those questions I had. Like, was why it's so easy to just not defame this person immediately after you lost the defamation suit, which Trump did. He went on CNN and he defamed the person who he had recently lost a defamation suit to in the exact same way. And for me, like, I don't know what the purpose of that is. Like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Like, or does he think he's just going to get away with it? I don't really understand that at all. And I don't understand this at all either. I mean, I get it. For him, this is like a $370 million penalty that he is going to use as yet another instance of like political persecution. He's being attacked. He's being attacked for his political beliefs. That's what he is using this for. He's using this as another stepping stone or a soapbox moment, I guess. Like, look at me. The elites are coming after me. And they're not just coming after me, they're coming after you. I'm just in the way. Right? That sort of thing. So I don't know. I don't really know what his goals are here.
Litigation and all politically motivated. She campaigned on I will get Trump. If you've ever seen any of her clips, they're horrible clips, actually. The anger, she's got serious Trump derangement syndrome. There's no question about Letitia James, the corrupt Attorney General of New York. So we've proven our case. There's not one witness against us other than one person who is a deranged. He's got a lot of problems. He's a man who's been convicted of lying. He's a felon, convicted felon, and not a good person.
Seems like his goals are to be president. Yes, I think that his goals are to be president no matter what the cost, and partially because, I think he seriously thinks that he might get legal repercussions if he doesn't make it. If he doesn't make it out the mud, he's worried. If he doesn't become the Republican Party's candidate, or if he doesn't actually take it to the general, and if he doesn't have the base of support and the institutional powers within the Republican Party and all of its organs, all of its instruments like Fox News and like all of those think tanks come to defend him, he might get cooked. Or at least he thinks he's going to get cooked. You know? Because like normal presidents, what do? They go in, they're out, they're in and out, they do the president thing, okay? They do a bunch of war crimes, and then what do? They retire, and they go hang out with billionaires like Richard Branson and they do podcasts and they do Netflix specials. I'm talking about Obama, obviously. Like, Trump is not interested in any of that, right? Like, or Jeffrey Epstein with Bill Clinton. They paint like George W. Bush. Overall, they just kind of chill out. They write books. They make a couple $1 million doing speaking tours here and there, speaking engagements. Trump, on the other hand, is, brother, you've been saying this is the day he will face legal repercussions for years now. You sure this time? My friend, if you think I've been saying this is the day he will face legal repercussions and not just he thinks he's going to face legal repercussions, I think you've gravely misunderstood what I'm saying. I've always maintained the position that he thinks he is going to. Just now, earlier, just a moment ago, I said Trump thinks at the very least he is going to face legal repercussions, whether that is true or not. The idea that I'm one of these like Blue Anon style, this is surely going to get him now type liberals is pretty funny. I like that.
Person, but that's their only witness, and he's now crashed and burned. They have no witnesses. And by the way, that witness took back everything that he said. He took back everything he said in court, took it all back. So they have no case. It's a shame that a thing like this is able to happen. Businesses leave New York. She went after Exxon, and they decided to move to Texas, and hundreds of millions of dollars they pay in taxes. I paid over $300 million of taxes over the last number of years, $300 million, and they don't recognize that. They don't recognize anything. So think of it, not one witness, millions of pages of document, years of this nonsense, and now it goes on. And one other factor, we won this case already in the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals voted in favor of us, but this judge has been very, very slow to accept that opinion because that's not the opinion that he wants. But we won in the Court of Appeals. That's the boss of this judge. He has to know that. And it was a conclusive victory, statute of limitations and other things. And that case has already been won. So that's the story. And I thought we'd come down to 40 Wall Street, which is a great building, and you'd get a chance to see one of the nicest buildings in New York and a convenient place. And I don't have to pay any rent, because we have it, and it's been a very successful building. But it's a shame to have gone through this for years and years and years, and now we'll see if we're going to get an honest verdict. We didn't have a jury. We had no rights to a jury. It's a statute that's never been used before for a purpose like this. I just watched a certain broadcast, and they said, you know, they've been looking, has it ever been used before? This is a statute that's a consumer fraud statute, never been used for anything like this before, and it's a shame. It's really it's a witch hunt in the truest sense of the word. It's election interference, and it just came out. This was just
dude. It's like, I mean, it's pretty funny to consider everything election interference. Like, if you are caught doing a crime or something, right? If you've like defrauded people, right? All you need to do is run for president, and then you could just say, they're coming after me because I'm running for president. And there's probably enough people, as long as you have the dumbest ideas of all time, there's going to be enough simps and stands on whichever respective stand Twitter space that you were occupying that will believe you and go, no, that's right, actually. Awesome.
Right now, Letitia James visited Joe Biden in the White House numerous times during the Trump witch hunt, and this just came out about...
Once you're over the age of 35, you should just do that all the time. Just do crimes and then run for president.
10 minutes ago, I got it. And so it's all a conspiracy to try and get Biden, who can't put two sentences together, trying to get him into office. So I just want to let you know that we have our best poll numbers, we have the best everything, despite this, and maybe because of this, because the people of the United States, all of those people back there, but the people of the United States really get it. They get it better than anybody else. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, do you agree with your lawyers what they said on
I have to pee.
Tuesday, that you should not be prosecuted or could not be prosecuted if you ordered SEAL Team 6 to kill a political opponent?
Well, you're talking about a totally different case, the immunity. I say this, On immunity, very simple. If a president of the United States does not have immunity, he'll be totally ineffective because he won't be able to do anything, because it will mean he'll be prosecuted, strongly prosecuted perhaps, as soon as he leaves office by the opposing party. So a president of the United States, I'm not talking just me, I'm talking any president, has to have immunity. As an example, Biden could come out and you could get him on the border, you could get him on what happened in Afghanistan, a horrible, most embarrassing moment in the history of this country. You could get him on a lot of different things. You could get him taking cash from countries. You could get him on the prosecutor not prosecuting his son or the company or whoever it was, Burisma, in Ukraine. You could get him on that, where it was a quid pro quo, if you remember that. If they don't drop the prosecutor, we're not giving them $1 billion of U.S. funds. If you don't have immunity, you can, you won't be making any decisions. So you have to have it. And I liken it to the fact that police have to have their control back. They have to have respect. And you can always have a bad apple. You can always have something happen.
This is my favorite type of argument for crime and policing in America, is that because they quite literally have everything that they possibly could get, because cops, as I jokingly say all the time, live in like a Nordic-style social democracy, while the rest of us are not in that at all. You know what I mean? I mean, unless you're like unless you've reached like the top 1% of wealth, when you're functionally a god king. And I know this, obviously you're going to be like, says you, but yeah, exactly. You're in the United States of America, if you're like working a regular wage job, okay, you don't have any of the amenities, right? You don't have any of the labor protections. Whereas, if you're a cop, it's like, it's as though if you are like a steel mill worker in Germany, right? You get the health care, you get the pension, you get job security, you get all of that. So because they have all of that and then some, with qualified immunity offering them so much protection to be above the law, you finally arrive at a position where if you want to say, like, what can we do to improve cops' living conditions or job conditions, you basically have to say, they don't get enough respect from the American population. Because when you talk about nurses, or when you talk about any other real job, for example, when you talk about nurses, when you talk about teachers, when you talk about any number of real jobs, like, there are so many obvious issues with that profession that you can point to that desperately needs fixing. Nurses are understaffed in hospitals deliberately by hospital administrators, right? Teachers are underfunded. They don't get paid enough. And the public school system is fundamentally broken. Hold on. So it's like, you don't see teacher flags on the back of pickup trucks? No, my point is, because cops have basically everything. Because cops have basically everything they want, everything they need, the only thing that remains that they don't have in that situation is like the respect of the American population. So now that's what your complaint is. Like, oh, the police are not being respected enough. And it's like, well, how are you going to enforce that? What are you going to make it illegal to say mean things about cops is now a hate crime or something? Like, it's just so dumb.
But at the same time, you have to stop crime in this country. It's very much like that. It's very similar to that. But you have to have immunity for a president.
Legally, you must compliment a cop.
I've read a lot of legal reports lately and scholarly reports that are saying you really have to have a president of this country has to have immunity, or they're not going to be able to function in office. Yeah, Bob?
President Trump, we're just days away from the Iowa caucuses. What percentage of your time these days is spent on your campaign, and what percentage is spent on your legal issues?
Well, see, my legal issues, every one of them, everyone, civil and the criminal ones, are all set up by Joe Biden. crooked Joe Biden. This is something that's never happened in this country. Even when you look at this is all about Biden and her meeting.
They're gonna turn policing into a protected class and it'll be considered hate speech. No, it'll be the only hate speech. Okay? The only time hate speech is real is if you are criticizing a cop. Okay? Or the state of Israel. Not Jews, the state of Israel. You can be anti-Semitic, and that's fine. That's not real hate speech. But if you criticize the state of Israel, that's hate speech. The only two real hate speeches in the United States of America is criticism of the state of Israel and criticism of police officers. Okay? Every other group, marginalized identity, ethnic background, none of that is what constitutes for real hate speech. I mean, even Elon Musk is trying to do the cis is a slur thing, right? Yeah, he's trying to do the cis is a slur. The real hate speech is against white people, is against cisgender people, it's against cops, and it's against the state of Israel.
So even the civil ones, this is civil, they're set up by Biden. Every single, just about, case that I'm involved in is set up by Biden. They're doing it for election interference. And in a way, I guess you'd consider it part of the campaign, because if you really look at it, they are doing this. It's never been done like this in this country. It's like we're a third world country, a banana republic. But every one of the things that you write about are Biden indictments. And I don't know, I just got a poll. We just had a poll.
What do you mean Biden indictments?
It just came out, and we're leading massively in Iowa. We're leading very big in New Hampshire. We're leading because the people understand this stuff. These are all set up. Every time somebody sees me in court, remember, Joe Biden and his thugs that surround him did it. They're trying to get a man in office that can't put two sentences together, and they're doing that. But so far, we seem to do very well.
The Iowa caucus is Monday, and
Kaya, come here.
Tuesday. Are you going to be back in court for the Eugene Carroll case on Wednesday?
Yeah, well, that's another one. That's sponsored by Reid Hoffman and some Democrat operatives. I never saw this woman in my life other than they have a picture with her and her husband, John Johnson, a nice guy who was a newscaster many years ago. I remember him, and she said horrible things about him since. I mean, horrible, horrible things, called him bad names. I have no idea who this woman is. I have absolutely no idea. The whole thing is ridiculous that this is even a case. This should never have happened. But again, this is sponsored by the Democrats. It's another case, all sponsored by, it's a demeaning kind of a thing, and that's what they want to do. It's called election interference.
All right, please.
And yeah, I'm going to go to it, and I'm going to explain. I don't know who the hell she is. I have no idea. They called me up years ago.
Horrible.
And they said, do you know about this woman 25 or 30 years ago? She doesn't even know the date, the time, the month, the season. She has no idea. And if you read it, if you watch, take a look at the Anderson Cooper interview of her. And if you take a look at that, Trump is so innocent. But we have been given a very unfair trial there, too. I don't get very fair trials in New York.
Have you made a decision about whether you're going to show up for the federal trials? You've showed up here in New York for your civil fraud trial. You just said you're going to show up for the Eugene Carroll case. Are you planning to show up in court when they begin, whenever they begin?
Sure,
Sure.
I would do that. Well, the documents case,
I'll be there no matter what.
Biden, and he didn't have the Presidential Records Act, and I do. What I did, nothing wrong. What he did, a lot of people say substantially wrong. You can't have two tiers of justice in this country. But no, I want to go to all of my trials. These are all set up by Biden and the Democrats. This is
Big Titty Goth Girl, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. This guy said man, woman, camera, child was a big achievement. It was. Perhaps the biggest achievement. Okay, low-key, though, looking at the state of affairs with respect to Brandon, it is technically kind of a big achievement, especially when you consider, like, whether or not Biden could do that currently. I'm just saying. Think about that.
their new form of cheating. This is, like last time, this is their new form of cheating. So far, I think it's gone very much against them. Yeah, please.
Yes, during the hearing, you said that Exxon left Exxon actually left in 1989. And
No, they took the rest of their divisions out. Yeah.
I mean,
They left earlier.
by the time of
They were
that.
treated very badly in New York. You could have had them in New York. They could have been paying a lot of money.
But it wasn't Letitia James's.
Oh, no, I think if you take a look, you read the case, study the case, you'll see that they took big divisions out after that. They originally left and then they took the rest out.
You just said you could get President Biden on various issues you outlined.
I didn't say I could get him on anything. I said he is using the weaponization of the DOJ and the FBI to go after his political opponent, and you just can't do that. Thank you very much.
Coward. I'm just saying, he said he was going to do that and then didn't, okay?
Let's go.
Which is like, can we give Kaya subs? Yes, of course. All of your gifted subs technically do go to Kaya anyway, regardless, because that's what I spend my money on. This is such a tired old argument. He keeps saying Biden is demented, mentally inept, but he's in the same sentence saying Biden is, oh, Kaya! I said place. What is this? Better recognize. Why can't Biden do that if he has immunity? What do you mean? He said that Biden can be prosecuted because of border policy. So that's the thing. Nothing that Donald Trump says makes sense, because on the one hand, he's saying as president, he should have immunity from crimes that he has committed. Meanwhile, all of his defenders said during the impeachment process, let the courts handle it. And then now that the court is trying to handle it, his lawyers are saying, no, he should still have immunity as president. While also, simultaneously, he's saying he should have immunity, but also Joe Biden is prosecutable as president. Because this is a weird bind that people find themselves in, and if they're looking for like honesty or moral consistency here, you're not going to get that. There's no intellectual honesty here. It's just about self-preservation. Okay? It's okay when I do it. It's not okay when anyone else that I don't like does it. That's the whole point. Nah, bro. He said if presidents don't have immunity, then Biden could be prosecuted for XYZ. Yes, except he's also advocating for Biden to be prosecuted. That's the whole point. He's saying I should have immunity. If you don't give me immunity, then Biden could be prosecuted. And actually, as a matter of fact, Biden should be prosecuted. Do you not see how stupid that is? Like, think about that for a second. Just for 1 second. Now, of course, liberal academia won't agree with him. Yeah, liberal academia. Now, obviously, Kaya's collar might be on too tight. You are delusional, my friend. That's not the case at all. Her collar is literally so loose that it can come off. She's just fuzzy. She's just fluffy. I've talked about this quite a bit, and I guess, it bears repeating because there's always new people in the chat who are unfamiliar with this process. If Trump can be prosecuted for things he did while he was in office as president, which he should be, because every man should be equal under the rule of law, right, in the criminal justice system, then so can previous presidents. And in a just world, I agree with that. And that should extend to actual war crimes as well, things that presidents have done at the behest of American empire. However, what is this? What is this? What is going on? Now, it won't, but there's also a way where Trump can get prosecuted given the uniqueness of his crimes. Because Trump's crimes do not pertain to advancing American empire's interests. Like, I mean, he's done that as well, obviously, but he's not being prosecuted for those things. He's being prosecuted for advancing his own personal interests, oftentimes at odds with American hegemonic power. That is the problem. That's the reason why, Nixon could get into legal trouble and legal scrutiny in the same way that Trump could get into legal trouble and legal scrutiny, and even in the way that maybe even Bill Clinton could get into legal trouble and legal scrutiny, but not in the same way that Barack Obama could, right? For drone striking, extrajudiciously murdering an American citizen, which, by the way, Trump also killed another member of that person's family, for the record, who was also an American citizen as well. So, but of course, no one cares about that, and everyone cares about the civil fraud that he's engaging in, that he is engaged in, according to the criminal justice system, or the January 6th insurrection, or a litany of other issues. His only current defense is whataboutism. It's so insane. Well, like I've said, debate lords are lawyers. Lawyers are debate lords, and the more you level up in your debate lord mentality, the higher you reach in the justice system. Supreme Court justices of the United States of America being like the maximum, like the maxed out debate lord status. So for that reason, yes, I do think that whataboutism is not exactly valid in a court of law, but it's still used, and people use it all the time. They do it specifically to, I guess, change the minds of a jury, but there was no jury in this situation because maybe somebody failed to file the right paperwork. I don't know who. Anyway, let's continue. Let's see what CNN has to say.
Let's get the latest from inside the courtroom now with CNN's Paula Reed. She's live outside the courthouse for us. Paula, a bit of a surprise that the judge would allow Donald Trump to address the court.
Nothing is surprising here, Boris, but things certainly taking a turn in the last few minutes. We know yesterday there were negotiations, we had learned, between the Trump team and the judge here about possibly allowing Trump to participate in closing arguments. Now, this would be highly unusual. Closing arguments are an opportunity for lawyers to summarize their case. The Trump team would not agree to some restrictions the judge laid out, insisting that Trump stick to the material and relevant information and not attack the district attorney or the judge. So things had been business as usual here. The closing arguments went forward. Trump's attorney, Chris Kise, summarized his argument. Other attorneys got up to summarize theirs. But then Chris Kise got up just a few moments ago and asked if former President Trump could address the court. And he then launched into what our colleagues who were inside described as a monologue, telling the court, quote, "The facts are the financial statements are perfect. There are no witnesses against us. The banks got all their money paid back. There were great loans. This was a political witch hunt." That is really how Trump and his lawyers have framed this entire case, as a politically motivated and manufactured allegation.
He's like, everybody
now,
won.
Trump says,
Win-win,
when you
bank
say
won.
don't go outside of these things, we have a situation where I am an innocent man. So he's referring to the restrictions that the judge tried to put on any participation that he would have. He said, quote, "I'm being persecuted by somebody running for office," referring to the district attorney who did promise to investigate Trump when she ran for office. He's insisting that I have to go outside of these bounds. So here he's making his case to the court, but also arguing with the judge and any restrictions the judge wanted to put on him. Now, I want to bring in our colleague, Kara SCAHILL, who is right next to me. Kara was inside the court earlier for oral arguments. Now, Kara, you called it. You knew that Trump couldn't get through the day without participating in some way. I mean, is this surprising?
I mean, that's the whole point. That's the reason why he went. He didn't have to go. He did not have to attend this court proceeding at all. He wanted to go specifically so that he could say some stuff, okay? Because that's the whole reason. He's using this as like a campaign stop.
You know, nothing in this trial has been surprising. Everything that we think is going to happen according to certain courts changes, and it doesn't happen. So it doesn't surprise me at all that the judge allowed Trump to speak, because part of the reasoning he gave initially.
Strategically speaking, do you think these trials are a good idea? I feel like it helps keep his base together. I mean, I think it's perfectly valid for whoever to be prosecuted for, defrauding institutions, okay? If you are greatly overvaluing your real estate properties to a degree that is like beyond comprehension, because this stuff happens all the time, especially in real estate, okay? There's a lot of tricksters. But the idea that like you can do it in the way that Trump did, where you look at like a property that is maybe maximum 100 million and value it at like 1 point whatever billion, then yeah, when you're getting out loans, while simultaneously when you're paying taxes on said property, you devalue it and you say, this is actually costing me quite a bit as a depreciating asset, then at that point, I do personally believe you should get a little bit of legal scrutiny. I mean, that's crazy. That is the entire point of the court system, right? So I think that's fine. It's ridiculous to just look at this and go, well, I don't know what the political backlash of such a thing is going to be. Well, it don't matter, right? I think as far as like the pure politics of it all, there are some court cases that are relatively sillier, right? The district attorney one launched in New York about like the hush money. I mean, there's still clear wrongdoing there, but it's not as like, it definitely is a charge that was amplified because of Donald Trump's own personal doing or no, I'm not talking about, that's document mishandling, sorry. The other New York State case, that one is like definitely the weakest case against Donald Trump. That probably does, play a role in making it seem as though the government is after him or whatever. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter, right? His base doesn't believe anything. Like, what do? Do you let him get away with everything? You can't do that because that's a dangerous precedent. And also, if you let him get away with it, it doesn't really change anything. If you at least attack him with the court system for very clear-cut violations of the law, then you atrophy him a little bit, you piss him off, you take his attention away from campaigning. He can try and campaign off of this as best as he can, but ultimately there's still a limit to how many, to how much of the audience he can capture.
Of why he would allow Trump to speak, as he said he had more on the line in this case than anyone else. And since there is no jury, he said it was only fair to let Trump speak. But of course, as you just laid out, Trump went beyond the contours of what the judge wanted to be permissible.
I don't think tons of moderates and normies are really following any of this stuff. Yeah, there's also that other side of things. I talk to my normie friends quite a bit about this to get a better feel for what's going on in the world of normal. And obviously, if you're in here, you're probably not a normie. You're probably a little bit more tuned in to what's going on. And I don't think they care. They don't really care. They just like see Trump as a bad guy who is corrupt, or they just don't really pay attention. Like on the more Republican adjacent side, on the center right of normies, they still think like Trump is a loudmouth and brash, and they don't really like him that much. And then on the center left side of things, on the liberal side of things, they are just not paying attention to this at all. Everybody collectively thinks two things, okay? The broadest majority of voters, if you were to ask them, in my opinion, this is my personal assessment, if you were to ask the broadest majority of voters, they would tell you two things. Joe Biden is incredibly old and probably shouldn't serve in office. I don't think he's mentally fit to serve in office. And Donald Trump is brash, he's corrupt, he's a bad dude overall, and quite, I wouldn't say problematic, but just like rude and annoying and a distraction, right? That is the two sides of the American political spectrum right now. And those are the guys who go out and vote when the time comes. So that's the situation at hand, and that's part of the reason why a lot of people have just completely checked out of the political process and don't even care. They're not even following.
here by talking about a witch hunt, by making this a political case and not arguing just the facts in the case. But for closing arguments, for the bulk of it, they were mostly delivered by Chris Kice, his attorney, and he did stick to the facts in the case. And he went through the evidence that was presented, saying to the judge that the Attorney General's office did not present any witnesses who testified that there was fraud here. And that has been
this election probably going to be pretty anemic turnout. Oh, 100%. This is a race to the bottom. Right, it's a race to the bottom. Both candidates that are slated to become their party candidates are very unpopular, and even unpopular in their own parties as well to a certain degree. Obviously, I think Trump, if he reaches the candidacy point, if he gets out of the primaries, which I think he will, he is going to be able to capture the base again, but is the base of support enough for him to win? I don't think so. That's the problem. The Republican Party's, passionate supporters are not enough to win a national campaign. But on the other hand, you have Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, which has all of the opportunity to have profound victories all around the country, casting it aside. And it's crazy. It feels like they are, you know what it feels like? It feels like the Democratic Party is playing down to the level of their competition. It literally feels like if you had like a retired basketball player, a professional NBA player, okay, who's well past his prime, but like he could still easily dunk on a bunch of like kindergartners, but he's just like nerfing himself for no reason whatsoever. That's what it feels like. And of course, the stakes are much higher than a basketball, like a recreational game of basketball. UIT did a segment that proposed the point is to be silly and ridiculous that people check out. Actually made a comparison to the rise of Hitler. The propaganda has always been honorable down to his hand movement in his speeches, but now he's even quoting the MFer. No, I don't think so. Anyway, but I don't know if he's like, I think if Trump was, that interested in Hitler and trying to repeat Hitler that much, that would require him to care about anything outside of himself. And I don't think he cares about anything other than himself. Like, I don't think he's ever fancied another individual, whether it be Hitler or not. Like, sure, he has a lot of political opinions that are adjacent, dare I say, Hitlerian, but I don't think he's the type of dude who's going to sit there, read a book, and, like, desperately try to craft his own persona off of, like, Adolf Hitler. You know what I mean? I think he's telegenic. I think he knows what hits. I think he knows how to read the room, and he is a great marketer for a very specific audience. And I think, he understands what the Republican base of support is looking for. But sometimes his own personal narcissism gets in the way of that. Like when he kept talking about January 6th over and over and over again, or when he kept talking about how the election was stolen from him over and over and over again. And he legitimately pushed larger swaths of the Republican base away from himself. Like, part of the reason why the, I guess, suburban whites that normally would vote for the Republican Party reliably, normally that there would be normal Republican voters are moving away from the Republican Party and voting for the Democratic Party a little bit, is because I think they got sick and tired of hearing him constantly say the election was stolen from him. That's it. This is embarrassing, but look how bad Haley kills Biden. Yeah, well, Haley needs to make it out the mud, and I don't think she's going to be able to, so that's not a thing that you need to worry about at this moment. And yes, Nikki Haley is like a dream Democratic Party candidate for many Democrats, I think. I'll be honest. just like your dream should be to avoid the top of the hour ad break, which is a bad, not a good, but a bad segue, because we are going to now move on to the International Court of Justice. From the American civil courts in New York to the International Court of Justice, I am bringing on Jeremy SCAHILL to come on board and talk to us about the International Court of Justice, where South Africa has started its case against the state of Israel. All right, let me turn off my camera really quick. I'm going to start the video call now. Hello? Okay, I can't see you. I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, I can see you now. Can you hear me? You won't be able to see me yet. But can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you as well. All right, perfect. I'm going to turn off my camera on here. We're doing live production.
No problem.
So, you know, it's a little bit wonky at times. Oh, wait, actually, you know what? Let me see if I could just do the virtual camera on here. Let's see. Boom. There it is.